So I can't even do a 10-year linking device to the next one, so I'm just going to ask, how can a train be lost? It's on rails. And that train would be the Darjeeling Limited. Wes Anderson's films about absent or inadequate parents continue with the Darjeeling Limited. This theme is fairly obvious in his work, the daddy issues in particular, but as I've already mentioned, when you watch 9 of his films in 3 days, it really stands out. And perhaps never more so than in this title. Here, 3 estranged brothers, played by Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, and newcomer Adrian Brody. Well, newcomer to Wes Anderson's world. I mean, not just that, he was pretty established by that point, having had an Academy Award and stuff, or at least been nominated for one. They meet in India about a year after their father's death to try to repair their estranged relationship. They take a cabin aboard the Darjeeling Limited, a train on India's vast rail network that will take them towards a meeting with their mother, Angelica Houston, who has gone into seclusion in an abbey in the Himalayas. The brothers, in the confines of a train, really needle each other and tempers flare, while truths are also uncovered. The bandaged Francis Wilson was in a near-fatal motorbike accident that was perhaps not quite such an accident. Writer Jack Schwartzman is unhealthily obsessed with his ex-girlfriend and scared of commitment, while being afraid at the same time of letting go of the past. And Peter Brody is terrified of his impending fatherhood, not least because, while he loves his wife, always assumed that he would get divorced, and he wasn't prepared for this eventuality. Each also tortures and punishes himself in his own way. Jack continually checks his ex's voicemail, while Peter suffers inexplicable headaches while wearing his father's old glasses which still contain a prescription lenses. As the film progresses, they shed their baggage, literal baggage, which is also, of course, metaphorical emotional baggage.
Yeah, that was a bit on the nose, really, wasn't it?
It's perhaps less artful than a lot of his work, yes. And the film takes an unexpectedly tragic turn, by far the Darjeeling Limited's most effective portion, and wounds begin to heal, perspectives are corrected, and relationships are restored. There are no Wes Anderson films to date that I don't like, but this one is by far the one I am least enamoured of.
Yeah.
Like much of his work, it meanders, and it's open to criticisms of lacking any particular point, but here is where I feel those criticisms are probably most valid. It is still, though, as you would expect, beautiful, with the varied and often highly saturated colours inherent to India a perfect fit for the director's aesthetic. The performances are also good, with the bickering of the 3 brothers being very believable, and it has a strong emotional core. It just lacks something. A certain je ne sais quoi that makes his other films special, but the Darjeeling Limited simply fine.
Yeah, it's the one Wes Anderson film I remember watching thinking I did not like that, and I hadn't gone back to it since 2007 or whenever this came out. And so I was trepidatious about returning to it, and I didn't like it more this time round. I would now say that I didn't dislike it, but I would struggle to recommend it to anyone, even if to an Anderson completist. I think it's his clumsiest film by a margin. Even obvious visual metaphors of shedding baggage aside, which was just eye-rolling in places. But even before that, it's just not as sharply observed and not as believable, I think, as other works that he's done. The bickering between the brothers works, but doesn't really connect on any level. And I feel like for about a half to 2/3 of the film, it's really struggling to try and find a connection to any sort of emotion at all and failing. And it only tries to get there by doing the equivalent of nuking a city in emotional terms out of absolutely nowhere.
It's a bit drama bomb. I found that scene very affecting, so I thought it was well played, but the actual how they get to it is very like, quick, stick something in here. It feels a bit like that. I
mean, it's effectively done, but it's so out of nowhere that it feels basically exploitative. it made me a little bit angry when it showed up again. It's like, this is like, go away. This is too obvious a manipulation. I expect better from you. I'm not not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Sorry, Dad.
Back to daddy issues again. But if you can see past that, then there is a lot of decent moments in there. There's lots of individually nice moments of interplay between the various combinations of characters that they put their way through this, and there's enough there that I got to the end of it and when going, yeah, but I wasn't all that unhappy with it on a review, but it's, I don't know, I'm with you, it's the least essential of Anderson's films. It just doesn't hang together as well as anything else. If you're so inclined, it's worth watching just for the visual aspects of it, because it is absolutely beautiful and the locations are stunning, and it's a feast for the eyes. Unfortunately, it's not quite the dramatic feast that I'd hoped for, or indeed the comedic feast. It's fine, but no, it's a definite level below the other Anderson works that we've spoken of today and will go on to speak about.
Yeah, and I wonder if any of that's to do with the fact that it's got 3 writers. Whether that maybe changes the focus a bit, or because I do wonder if the main writers are Jason Schwartzman and Roman Coppola, who, like Anderson and Owen Wilson having a shared history, perhaps Roman Coppola and Jason Schwartzman, by dint of having grown up together and being related, to have their own shared history.
Yeah.
And it makes it more their story than less Anderson's, and whether that affects it.
Yeah.
And as we'll see in the film that we come to next, that when he actually tries his hand at adaptation, turns out very well. But I wonder if it's got a bit less of Anderson's own voice in that, and whether that's why. Because I'm trying to work out why. Not every film from any given director can be great anyway. It's never going to happen. But I just wonder if the why of it here is that it's less his film.
Yeah, yeah.
Without knowing enough about the actual production writing of it, it's like conjecture on my part at the moment. I need to look into it at some point. But I just wonder if that's why there's less of his voice in it, which means it doesn't feel quite as much like a Wes Anderson film. In visuals, absolutely, but in content, much less so.
Yeah. No, that seems to jibe with the rest of it. Yes. Again,
we're only talking about 9 films in total he's produced so far. So if you like Wes Anderson, then you should probably at least be completionist. It's worth watching. Mm-hmm. It does look lovely. It's so wonderfully colourful, and I mean, it goes down this sort of path that so many films feel tempted to do too, of go to somewhere that, at least from your point of view, it's an exotic location, in this case India, and you make it a wee bit touristy video looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful and varied country, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't look nice like any country.
Yeah.
But we only see the nice bits here, whereas some of his films set in the United States, you see maybe more of a mixture, rather than just like the nicest looking parts or something like that.
Yeah. I can forgive it that, because it is sort of framed as being as much, well, road movie, I guess not, but rail movie, but they are being tourists on it, so they're going to the tourist locations. So
railroad movie, right?
Yes.
And yeah, it's not a strong criticism of that, but it veers towards that. But what I was going to say though is that is ameliorated somewhat, or mollified somewhat, by the fact that kind of like the typical way in India of even a fairly, I'm not sure how to put this, fairly modest accommodation still will be painted in like very bright, strong primary or secondary colours, and that those kind of tie in well with Anderson's visual style and the way things are presented on the train and the way he uses colour generally. So it's quite a good visual fit.
Yeah,
for such a colourful country, in terms of like typical clothing and the way houses are so often painted, that sort of thing. Yes, if you like Wes Anderson, watch it for completionism's sake. It's just that it's the least essential. So you could put that very much 9th on the list out of the 9, and going to be forewarned that you may be disappointed by it. But it looks lovely, and for 90 minutes of a thing looking lovely, That's not so bad.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned at the start too, there aren't any of his films I don't like. This is just the one that I like the least.
Yeah. It's all relative, as most of his films are.